Hi, and welcome to today's video. So we'll be talking about energy balance, as you can see on the screen. So we'll touch on what energy balance is, what are the different components, and what affects those components. Let's dive straight into this. So first of all, let me move into that little corner there. And yeah, so those figures that to describe energy balance and the effect of it. So first of all, let's touch on what calories are. Basically, calories are the energy in the food that we consume, and that's very much simplified. So as you can see, for weight gain, we want our calories eaten to be more than the calories burned. On the other hand, if you want weight loss, you want the calories eaten to be smaller than the calories burned. And finally, for weight maintained, we want both calories in and calories out to be equal. In simple terms, I like to use an analogy to sort of make it a little bit easier to understand. Let's say you have a bank balance and you have an income and spending. Let's say if you want the money in your bank balance to increase, essentially we want our money coming in, which is your salary, to be more than the money you spend. And after some time, you'll find that you've got more money in your account than when you started. And on the other hand, if you want your money to decrease, which I doubt you do, but let's use this. So if you want your money to decrease, you want to spend more money than your income is. So, and after some time, you'll find that you have less money than what you started with. And this is quite an easy way to think about. Obviously, human anatomy and human behavior are a lot more complex than this, but I just like to use this as a simple way to understand. I would also like to add that when it comes to the fat we have or the energy store we have, so the amount of fat or energy store we have is pretty much dictated by the amount of energy you consume and the energy you've burned or expended throughout your entire life up until this point. So it's not about last week, the week before, or even the month. It's basically an average of your whole life up until this point. So when you put it into perspective, you realize that it's very much a long-term thing. So now let's dive into energy in and how it's affected. So energy in is referred to the food or drinks that we consume. And one of the main factors that affects this is appetite. So I've written down a few different areas that usually affects appetite. And these are the food in your stomach, number one, which is essentially the more food you have in your stomach, the less hungry you feel. And that sounds quite obvious. But this is where we can sort of use our food options. So if you choose to eat food that are lower in calories for the amount of volume you have, then we tend to be a little bit fuller, we tend to be less hungry, and so you can eat a bit less calories if your goal is to lose weight. On the other hand, if you're trying to gain weight, you can eat more calorie dense food, which means smaller volume, more calories, such as peanut butter is one of them. Second is hormones, so leptin and ghrelin. So leptin is the appetite suppressor, ghrelin is the appetite stimulator. So those are very much dependent on your genetics. However, we can sort of play around a little bit with this. So if you tend to restrict yourself and not eat for the whole day, you will find that ghrelin hormones increases, which then means that you get really hungry. And this is why sometimes if you haven't eaten all day, you feel so hungry that even eating your normal portion doesn't satisfy you, and you need to eat more and more. Next one is social factors. So this is often underrated, but you probably have noticed when you're with certain people, we tend to eat more or drink more, whereas when we are with others, we are a bit more controlled. Other things that also affect us is the socio-economic factors, and yeah, that can have an impact in the amount of food we eat. And lastly, psychological factors such as emotional eating, stress, anxiety. Those can definitely affect our eating behaviors. However, it's something that we want to address and dive a bit deeper into, so face our emotions rather than satisfy them with food. Next is energy out. So those are essentially how we burn calories or how we expend energy. So there are 4 components of energy expenditure, and those are listed on the screen. So there's the resting metabolic rate, which essentially is the energy you use just from being alive. Next is thermic effect of food. A little bit of a mouthful, pun intended. So this is essentially the energy we burn from eating. So when you digest the food that we eat. Next one is the thermic effect of activity, which is essentially the energy you expend when you work out, when you're training. And lastly, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Again, very long words. So this is energy expended in anything else. So when you are walking to the shop or cleaning the house, and just basically general movement throughout the day. So a few tips are for if you're looking to lose weight or lose fat. Factors that we want to be focusing on are the thermic effect of activity and non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So essentially we want to focus on our training as well as our general movement, and we don't really want to focus on trying to change our resting metabolic rate or thermic effect of food. I'll dive a bit deeper into this in the few next videos, but basically this is a bit of information about energy balance. So if you have any questions about this, do not hesitate to drop me an email or get in touch through Instagram. I'd be more than happy to help you out and discuss a bit further. Thank you very much and hope you have a lovely day. Cheers!